Season 2 starts off with a wide sweeping shot of the New York City skyline. We hear various conversations and sounds, then a scream. These men are on the run from an unseen entity. The devil's on their trail now. After an excellent scene where Daredevil is barely shown as he single-handedly dismantles this gang of crooks, there's finally a good look at him. He's happy as Daredevil and as Matt Murdock. That won't last long. It's a hot summer day in Hell's Kitchen, and the law firm of Nelson and Murdock has been helping the little guy since their takedown of Fisk. Nonetheless, another threat is on its way. A group of Irish mobsters are having a meeting. They're trying to take over Hell's Kitchen underworld. However, some new gang has been taking the others out, trying to fill the power vacuum left by Wilson Fisk. They are gunned down with finesse and ease, but the shooters are never seen. Matt and Foggy then go to the scene of the crime to see what happened, and we get a glimpse into how their relationship has been holding up. Things aren't as bad as they were near the end of last season, but they're still tense. Foggy is still angry at Matt, even if neither of them will admit it. They take on the sole survivor of the Irish gang shooting, Grotto, as a client, who was injured pretty badly in said shootout. Karen takes him to the hospital when we learn something truly terrifying. Whoever's been taking out all these gangs isn't a group. It's one man. After learning he's going after Grotto, Matt rushes out to help Karen. The man lumbers towards them, gun in hand. Karen and Grotto are barely able to escape, and Matt takes on the gunman. This man can take Matt in a fight, so it's clear that he's a threat. He takes out a gun in his boot, aims it at Matt, and...
bang.
When we next see Matt Murdock, he's unconscious, but alive. He was shot in the head, his helmet narrowly stopping the bullet. Foggy finds him and helps him get back home, but he's angry. He tolerates Matt's crime fighting, but he's still on the edge about it. He tells Matt to take a day off and he and Karen will go get Grotto. When Foggy arrives at the police station, the true atrocities of the gunman are revealed. He's taken out dozens of criminals with pinpoint precision and expertise. This is no ordinary man. The DA's office has given him an alias, the Punisher. The Punisher is next seen getting radio equipment from a less than honorable man, to put it nicely, and on his way out.
I got it all, man. Yeah, bondage, backdoor, grannies, or maybe you're in the market for something younger. She's barely 12. Guaranteed. What the hell are you doing?
He flips the sign, doubles back, and...
I'm just trying to make a buck.
Matt is next seen reeling from his previous fight with the Punisher. He's suffered such a hard hit to his head that his powers have stopped working. He's scared. He's never experienced this before. For the first time in his life, Matt Murdock is truly blind. Matt is restless, and he goes to Melvin for a suit to be repaired. However, it's unfixable. He'll have to make a new one from scratch. Melvin patches up the current helmet and tells Matt he'll have to make a new one. He tracks down the Punisher again, and round 2 begins. It's a surprisingly close match, but in the end Matt still loses. The Punisher then takes him and chains him up. The conversation they have on the rooftop is truly exceptional.
I think you're wrong.
Which part?
All of it. I think there's no good in the filth that I put down. That's what I think.
And how do you know?
I just know. Look around, man. This city, it stinks. It's a sewer. It stinks and it smells like shit, and I can't get the stink out of my nose. I think that this world, it needs men that are willing to make the hard call. That's what I think. I think you and me are the same. We're the same. You know it. Only I do the one thing that you can't. You hit them and they get back up. I hit them and they stay down. It's permanent. I make sure that they don't make it out on the street again. I take pride in that.
Let me ask you this.
What's that?
What about hope?
Oh, fuck.
Come on, Frank.
About Santa Claus? You want to talk about Santa Claus?
I live in the real world, too, and I've seen it.
What have you seen?
Redemption, Frank. It's real. And it's possible. The people you murdered deserve another chance.
What, to kill again, rape again? Is that what
no,
you
Frank,
want?
to try again, Frank. To try. And if you don't get that, there's something broken in you can't fix. And you really are a nut job.
say?
You're unhinged, Frank. You are. You think God made you a one-man firing squad. But you're wrong. There is goodness in people, even in you. And you're gonna have to kill me, because I'm never gonna stop coming for you until I take you down. You wanna know why?
Why's that?
Because you're insane.
Frank tries to get Matt to kill Grotto, but he escapes. He begins to leave the building, but as you may notice, the camera doesn't cut. Here we go, hallway fight part 2. Matt chuckling when he scares the criminals shows he barely views them as a threat and dispatches them with extreme prejudice. When he's finally out, Matt picks up his upgrade from Melvin, and boy oh boy, is it an upgrade. As a side note, I love how realistic the suit feels. The look in the comics is good for, a comic book, but the one in the show really feels like it could exist in our world, reminding me a lot of the Dark Knight trilogy. Frank is kidnapped by the Irish mob, and in a delightfully brutal scene, we see how much punishment, ironic I know, that Frank can handle. Also in this episode, Frank's past is slowly alluded to until he finally reveals it to Matt. Bloody and beaten half to death, he tells Matt about his family. They have a heartfelt conversation about love, war, and family.
Ever think that for her there was not gonna be any tomorrow, see? The last time I see her, I'd be holding her lifeless body in my arms.
This story even makes Matt tear up. Having put the Punisher in jail, our trio celebrates. Matt and Karen walk home together, and in a near-perfect scene, better performed and shot than most superhero media now, a romance begins to form. And this feels real, it feels earned, because we got to know and love these characters, at the same time these characters got to know and love each other. But just when Matt Murdock begins a new romance, one from his past shows up.
Hello, Matthew.
Elektra Natchios is an old flame. Right off the bat, it's clear that the relationship ended poorly, and as more of their past is revealed, it's shown why Matt is so distrusting and angry towards her now. In the past, she tracked down and tied up the man that killed Matt's father. She tempts Matt to kill him, and he almost does. He beats the man brutally, but it's not heroic. He's not doing this to protect the innocent like he does now. He's doing it to punish the guilty. As the season goes on, the firm of Nelson and Murdoch decide to take on Frank as a client, and Matt and Elektra begin to look into the return of the Yakuza together. Matt is very hesitant to help out Elektra, but agrees on the terms that when their work is done, Elektra will leave New York and never come back. However, the more they work together on the Yakuza, they begin to reconnect. And with this, Matt starts to also struggle handling his dual identities. He misses the opening statements for the Punisher trial, and Foggy has had it with him. He yells at Matt for missing something so important, and scolds him for being Daredevil overtaking his day job. With the threat of the DA's office hanging over their heads, our trio prepares for the trial of the century. That night, Matt and Elektra are attacked by a group of ninja. Elektra is badly injured, and Stick just appears out of nowhere. Matt decides to stay with Elektra and misses even more of the trial, where Frank's military past is revealed. Back at Matt's apartment, Stick tells Matt that Elektra works for him and that a war is coming. He then tells Matt that the group of ninja are part of an ancient organization known as the Hand. Karen goes to get Matt to help her with the trial, where she sees him with Elektra. The tension between our trio continues to rise, and Frank goes haywire on the stand.
Any lowlife, any maggot piece of shit that I put down, I did it because I liked it. Hell, I loved it. I'm sitting here, I'm just itching. I'm itching to do it again. And you think what? You think you're gonna send me to a nut house? Some doctor, they're gonna get me to stop from doing what I want to do? Well, that ain't happening. Not on my watch. You call me the Punisher, ain't that right? The big bad Punisher. Here I am!
Remove the witness.
I am the Punisher. I'm right here. You want it, I'll give it to you. And anybody who came here today, hear me whine, hear me beg, you can kiss my ass.
Matt goes back to his apartment, but a hand ninja snuck in. After a quick fight where Matt gets shot by an arrow, Elektra ends up killing the man. Matt is devastated. He thought Elektra had changed. Maybe she can't. Frank is then taken to jail, where he is brought to some mysterious man working out. The camera hides this man in shadow, giving the audience a few seconds to piece together who he might be. It's him, the Kingpin, Wilson Fisk. Next, we see Fisk's rise to power in jail and what happened right after he was taken down last season. He gives Frank a lead on a man involved in his family's murder named the Blacksmith, and sends him on his way. However, it was a trap. Frank is now stuck with a group of inmates, but they're not a problem for him. He tears through these guys one by one, no hesitation whatsoever. Impressed that he survived the ordeal, Fisk lets Frank out of prison. Matt then finds a group of people captured by the Hand and sends them to Claire for medical attention. Meanwhile, the news of Frank Castle's escape goes public. Because of this, our trio is called to the DA's office. The Punisher had other plans. He guns down the DA in cold blood, putting the city in even more of a nosedive. Foggy begs Matt not to go after him, and Matt says he's going to pay someone a visit. But he wasn't talking about the Punisher. No, he's going to see Fisk. Frank finds Karen at her apartment and claims he's not the one who shot the DA. He may be telling the truth. She believes him at least, and they set out to find the real shooter. Matt's worries then come true as the Hand advances on the hospital. He's able to fight off the ninjas and save Claire, while Karen tells the police that she hasn't seen Frank. In the meantime, Foggy begins to entertain new job opportunities. Matt continues his search for the Hand, which may be a much deeper rabbit hole than he ever thought. Frank also continues his search for the Blacksmith, as he is most likely the one who killed his family. Elektra fights her way up Stick's organization in an attempt to kill him. It's a pretty close fight between the two, until Matt shows up and gets between them. Just as he does, however, the Hand shows up and takes Stick. In a flashback, we learn that Stick truly cares for Elektra, or at least he used to. Matt decides he's gonna save Stick, with or without Elektra's help. Next, Karen goes to Frank's old commanding officer, and they talk about Frank. Through their conversation, Karen slowly pieces together that he is the Blacksmith, the reason Frank's family is dead. Frank saves Karen, and she tries to convince him that he can be better than the monster he's perceived as. But he can't. Matt tracks down Stick, and they reconcile. But of course, it's never that easy. Elektra walks in, and a confusing truth is revealed. Elektra is the Black Sky, the sole objective of the Hand. Matt convinces Elektra to take Stick and run while he fights off the Hand. While Foggy is taking a new job at a much bigger law firm, Matt learns that the Hand is trying to capture every known person saved by Daredevil. That includes Karen. Matt searches frantically, hoping, needing to find her. He can't let anyone die because of him, especially not Karen. He gets a hold of himself and uses his senses to track them down, then rushes off with Elektra to get them. He leaps into action, taking the goons out and saving the hostages. He and Elektra run away, but there's a lot more ninja following them. The pair accept their fate and have a bittersweet conversation about what to do if they survive. They gather their courage and their strength and open the door. The battle begins, and while at first it's even, Matt and Elektra are quickly overrun. Matt is about to be stabbed when Elektra jumps in front of him. Matthew Murdock's first love is taken from him, his heartbreak soon turning to rage. He plows through these ninja when a gunshot echoes into the night. The camera cuts to Frank Castle, giving Matt some backup. The fight is then over, and Elektra is gone. Matt and Stick have a poignant talk about Elektra, while Karen and Foggy deal with the firm disbanding, but establish that they're still friends. Matt meets Karen back at the office and reveals that he is Daredevil. The season ends with Elektra's grave being robbed for some mysterious reason. And that is Daredevil Season 2. It's not perfect and certainly not as good as the other 2 seasons, but it's still pretty good in its own right. The next show was Defenders, which was a not-so-great crossover between the 4 Marvel Netflix shows, but the only one it really impacts is Daredevil anyways. So I'm going to give a brief recap of what happens in that show, because I'm not going to cover it in its own. So basically, Elektra's body is taken by the Hand, brought back to life through apparently dragon bones. Think of that what you will. Matt stays with Elektra down in this cave where they're taking the dragon bones from, and he almost dies in the explosion, but as you'll see from season 3, he's still alive. So yeah.